There's a lot of stories that happen these days. And I see them happen and I say, hey, let's just wait and see what the facts actually are before we all overreact and decide based on a 15 or 20-second video what actually happened. Let's take a step back and actually contemplate the real stories and see what exactly happened. And what's amazing to me is when the real story actually comes out, nobody covers it. Let me give you some examples in sports of late. LeBron James says there's racist graffiti on his gate. The LA Police Department investigates, finds that there is no evidence that occurred, no crime occurred, and nobody ever covers the fact that there's no evidence it ever happened. Everybody covers it immediately. Michael Bennett said he was racially discriminated against by Las Vegas police. 100 different video cameras come out, none of which corroborate Michael Bennett's story. It vanishes after being the lead story on NFL broadcasts for substantial amounts of time. And now with Jacob Blake, Major League Baseball, NBA, MLS, NHL, they all cancel playoff games over this guy. And then the story comes out, wait a minute, Jacob Blake showed up at a woman's house who had accused him of felony sexual assault. She picked up the phone, called 911, and had the police come to her house because she was afraid of Jacob Blake and what he might do to her. The police then show up at her house. They know that he has a felony warrant outstanding. They attempt to actually arrest him. He fights with police, puts one of them in a headlock, is able to shrug off tasers, walks around the car, picks up a knife, and then gets shot. And NFL players now may put their name on, have started to put his name on their jersey. WNBA players spelled out his name. Think about the irony of this. WNBA players spelled out the name on their court in t-shirts of a man who was called the police on by another woman their same age who's accused him of sexual assault. MLS, NBA, Major League Baseball, Drew Brees put his name on his helmet. This is shameful and it is pathetic. And do you know that the only place in all of sports that actually wrote and shared these facts from the Department of Justice in Wisconsin was Outkick? All of these huge media sites ran with the idea that Jacob Blake was 100% innocent and had done nothing wrong. And when the actual truth came out, none of them shared any of that. Now, you can argue about whether he was shot too many times, and that is something the Department of Justice and the DA can review and determine whether or not charges should be filed. But the idea that this guy got executed or assassinated or shot for no reason or that he was somehow a peacemaker is a total and complete lie. And everybody who spread it in the media, particularly the sports media, all of the athletes, all of them should be ashamed, and so should all of the media figures who didn't share any of the details of what happened in Kenosha and instead have left their listeners believing that Jacob Blake is still a martyr. All I say is what matters is the facts, the facts, the facts. And so often we are not willing to wait for the most basic facts, and sports is the worst because we have a bunch of guys and girls who aren't that well informed, who just sit around on their social media accounts looking at viral videos. They don't actually know anything about the justice system by and large. They don't actually know anything about the larger context in which these incidents happen. And sports shut down for a guy who was accused of sexual assault and for a guy that a black woman called police for to protect her from him. This is just lunacy. And yet again, the story bubbles up, everybody jumps on the mob, and then the story comes out, more details, and the story just actually vanishes. There is no accountability. There are very few people in media, hardly any in sports media. Honestly, if Outkick didn't exist, there wouldn't be any that actually pursue the real truth. And it is shameful what the sports media has become, a bunch of pussy willows, all running around trying to have the exact same opinion as each other, refusing to actually look into the evidence. And when the evidence counteracts their preferred narrative, they shut up and they don't say a word about it. It is pathetic. And by the way, we have allowed the NBA and Colin Kaepernick over the last 4 years to take over sports. Colin Kaepernick has never been a registered voter. Only 20% of NBA players are registered voters. Why are we allowing people who won't even take the time to vote to lecture us on what we should be doing in our own lives when all we want to do is watch sports to escape the serious things in our lives? These are not guys who are even willing to register to vote themselves, and they presume to lecture us about what our political opinion should actually be. 20% of NBA players registered to vote, not voting, registered to even legally vote. Colin Kaepernick has never voted himself. Yet the sports media has allowed these guys to be megaphones to spread their own far left-wing ideals. It's pathetic.